Hey guys, this is John, and welcome to another Climbing the Rating Ladder video. That's right, it's been a little while since I made one of these videos, but we're getting back into the YouTube gist, so a Climbing the Rating Ladder seems appropriate. This is one of my longest running series, going back years and years. Playing ChaoticLama, 1499. I definitely approve of that rating. Better to be a high 1400 than a low 1500. So, okay, Caro-Kann. I could go for a mainline here. Caro-Kann's very popular right now, I think mainly because of Levy's influence. I know he advocates it from the black side. I played a bunch of different systems against it. I'm tempted to go advanced variation. And notice I'm making my decision here, because if I play d4, then I'm going to have fewer options. I could go with a two-knight setup, knight f3 followed by knight c3, or vice versa. That actually seems kind of appealing to me, so let's go for it. We'll play knight c3. I don't recommend thinking that long on your second move, but I'm trying to play something that I haven't played at all recently. And let's see how my opponent reacts. Oh, my opponent wants to chat, by the way. They said, I was literally just watching your video. All right, I gotta move my webcam so you guys can see this. All right, we'll just tell them what's up and that we're recording this. Hopefully they're cool with that. Let's play knight f3. Just defend the center pawn here. Yeah, I never want to put someone in a position where they absolutely don't want to be recorded if they express that to me. But this player seems familiar with my videos, and hopefully it'll be a useful lesson for both of us. Hey, at least they're free rolling when it comes to the rating. You guys can see here, I gain nothing for a win. I lose 152 rating points for a loss, or for a draw rather, and 305 for a loss. So hopefully that's good enough for them, attempting to take my rating. But yeah, thanks to my opponent already for being a good sport here. Okay, bishop g4. Could take on d5. Could also play h3. I think taking on d5 is a little more forcing, but h3 I'm probably a bit more comfortable with. Yeah, because there are some lines after this where you give a check, they play knight c6, h3 is played, and I kind of think black is fine there if they know what they're doing. They could get squeezed, though. Let's actually go for that line in the interest of trying to test my opponent's knowledge and see what happens. Okay, and they did confirm in the chat. They said, try being the optimal word, but it's a pleasure to play you, honestly. So, yeah, really good sport here. Thanks again to my opponent, who I hope will see this. Okay, so takes back. Let's go check. And then on knight c6, I'm going to go ahead and play h3, and we'll see if black makes that capture on f3 or not. And just as a reminder, in the Climbing the Rating Ladder series, I play players of all different rating levels. This is just purely for instructional purposes. I try to elaborate on the things that I see at certain rating levels. Once you get into this rating level here, these players tend to be pretty solid tactically. They will make tactical mistakes for sure, because even far higher than this, those are unavoidable. But yeah, I think once you're past about 1400, you can expect most of your opponents, I'm talking chess.com ratings, blitz or rapid, let's say, you can expect them to be fairly good calculators, not making tons of like one move blunders. Occasionally still happens, but these are players that you actually have to actively start outplaying, and you got to have a plan. You can perhaps hope to outplay them strategically if you feel you have better middle game knowledge, but trust me, I'm taking nothing for granted against a player at this rating level. This is a decent player. So knight c6. Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and play the h3 move. There's also the inclusion of d4 and knight f6 possible here. But let's put the question to the bishop immediately, and black does take. I think that's a good idea. Because without the capture, yeah, bishop h5 would always risk g4 knight e5 when there'd be pressure on c6, and it might become uncomfortable for my opponent. So, yeah, I think capturing there was the smart thing to do. Knight f6 played. I'm probably going to go d4 here, just keeping the tension. I will bear in mind that e6 is coming. I'm almost tempted to play g4. Looks like an intriguing idea. Just putting my opponent to the test here, seeing how they react to perhaps a g5 move. Could play d4 first and then do that. If I play it here, though, it might be a little more challenging because I feel that black might try to react to that move, maybe with h6. Maybe I get a little hook to use. It looks interesting. I mean, I'm out of book here, so let's go ahead and play g4. I don't think I'm taking too many risks, per se, with this move. I have the bishop pair. Black has the center pawn, but space-wise, I'm doing fine. And let's see how my opponent reacts to this possible g5 idea. So this is the Mendeno variation. Two knights Mendeno variation. I'm recording this fairly late at night. Once again, it's past 10:30 p.m. my time. I'm drinking decaf coffee. Don't worry, guys. Okay, a6. Pretty solid move. And I was thinking go ahead and make this trade here in the interest of trying to get g5 through. So I'll probably do that. Now, the nice thing about this trade for black is that they do get to strengthen the d5 square. So that's a plus. Yeah, let's take. I don't see any value in keeping the bishop, so I'm going to go ahead and make that capture. G5, probably knight d7 is going to be played. Just kind of forecasting out here, g5, knight d7, d4. If e6, maybe I can get ready to castle on the queen side in some capacity. Could also play d4 straight away, d4, e6, and then decide from there how I want to play. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to castle queenside in this game. That might be apparent because I've already thrown these pawns up the board. You know what? Let's play d4 straight away. We'll keep g5 in reserve. I'm just not quite sure if I actually want to force the knight back to d7. I like having the option of g5, but I'm playing like the necessary move first here, d4. I feel like I'm going to have to play that within the next couple moves no matter what to coordinate. So it's usually a good policy to just go ahead and do that. Yeah, e6. So I think bishop b4 followed by knight e4 could be a tempting option for black. That is a reason to play g5. Let's say g5, knight d7, and then bishop d2 there. I am noticing there might be some issues with like a queen b6 type move. I could see that being decent for black. Maybe I want my knight to come to e2, you know? Maybe I should attempt to send it there. That's a little time consuming. I wouldn't do that immediately. I'd probably play the g5 move first. g5, knight d7, then knight e2. Yeah, otherwise, not a whole lot else I'm considering. Definitely leaning towards this. It does show my hand a bit, but I think it's largely fine. Maybe I'll be rolling with my king in the center if I go for the knight e2 operation. Yeah, let's play g5. I think almost certainly this will be the answer. Don't really see any other good move for black. Still possible I could castle short. Like, that's not unheard of these days to throw these pawns down the board and still castle on this wing. I think there's been a reevaluation of a strategy like that, assuming you're the one who has the space to begin with. Your king may not be as weak as it seems. Just the big question for me, I'm debating right now, is where to put my dark square bishop, because that's the next logical move here. Bishop f4, I'm now kind of leaning towards as well, because I see on bishop f4, on queen b6, I can castle queenside, defending d4 and b2, and it's really nice that my bishop helps control this square. So that's a possibility. I wonder how much I have to take c5 seriously. That is an option for black for sure. So maybe I should ultimately go for the knight e2 operation. Might be the thing to do here. Bishop f4, c5. I think I am going to play bishop f4. I know I'm wavering a little bit here, but let's do this, indicating a possible intention here to castle queenside. I think it's the most principled thing to do. Knight e2, I don't like the fact that both c5 and e5 become more enticing. Having the bishop here does stop the e5 move, so that's intriguing to me. And I'm thinking whenever black castles kingside, start trying to jumpstart my play on the kingside with h4, h5, possible g6 someday, or even h6. Okay, so c5. Now this is where things could get spicy, because I am looking at some potential sacrificial ideas. Let's say castles, take on d4, and then knight takes d5. Yeah, my eye is really drawn towards that idea. E takes d5, give a check with the rook, bishop e7, and then bishop d6 swooping in. Looks pretty darn threatening. Now, I don't think I want to play this yet. I don't think I'm quite in a position to do that because my rook is not quickly coming to the file. Yeah, I'm going to castle. Let's throw the move back at black. This does look like a critical moment. I'm at about 50% time usage here. Oh, I should mention this is a 10+5 game, so 10 minutes with a 5-second increment. But yeah, critical moment, I believe, for black in this position, because on the natural capture, I think I'm going to go ahead and play knight takes d5. I think all systems are go here. I'm suddenly pretty coordinated. Black has spent the last tempo on a pawn move and seems poised to do it again. Another pawn move. And that pawn move weakened d5, so that's why I'm pretty heavily looking at the knight takes d5 resource. Interesting position. I do feel like this was a mistake, but maybe the position is not fatal or anything for black. Maybe they need to play a couple of consolidation moves here. Yeah, rook b8. So this, I presume, overlooks the bishop takes b8 reply. Got to watch those long diagonal moves. Just thinking if there's anything else I can do. I could, in fact, throw this in if I wanted, and then give the check, and then bishop d6. Tempting. Hard to go for that when bishop takes b8 is just staring me in the face, though. But maybe. I mean, knight takes d5 is definitely interesting, because my thinking is if this position occurs, bishop e7, bishop d6, that might even be better than the other line, because let's say castles, bishop takes e7. Although there is queen b6 with this. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and bank the material. Yeah, black must have seen the issue there straight away. Played queen takes b8, pre-moved. Okay, so I think this is pretty natural. Looking again for knight takes d5. I think taking and then knight takes d5, just brute force, also comes to mind. But let's get another piece into the action. Natural move. We'll go ahead and do it. This rook helps defend here if needed, but I'm looking for knight takes d5 still. I still think that's going to be a nice operation for me. Yeah, I think this is going to be too tough for black. I would play probably bishop e7 here, at least threatening to take the pawn with check and trying to facilitate castling. But I have a couple good options there. I could play knight takes d5, probably the most forcing, likely what I will do. Although, actually, if pawn takes d5 and I gang up on the bishop, there is queen d6, so maybe I won't jump the gun on that. Maybe I'll play h4 first to secure this pawn, look for black to castle, and then play knight takes d5. Yeah, that might be the better thing to do, just to get this move in, because my g-pawn is loose. We always want to watch undefended pawns and pieces. That's the throwback to Chess Fundamentals #1, which I know many of you have watched. It's one of my more viewed videos here on YouTube. Always got to watch those undefended pieces. It just never stops in chess. So the way that I played this was ambitious from the jump. And 15 moves into the game, up the exchange, I'm still trying to be mindful of ways that this could go wrong. Potential avenues for counterplay for my opponent, ways where I could get overextended. Okay, now bishop d6, developing move, but it doesn't do anything to stop the pressure on d5. And this pawn is pinned. So I could take actually either way, queen takes or knight takes. Probably knight takes makes more sense. It controls f4. So likely going to do that. There's also taking here. But I don't really want to give black any chance to go like bishop f4 check and then castle. Knight takes d5. Do I care about a move like this? That looks like a disaster for black. So yeah, let's go ahead and take. I would imagine black's going to want to castle here, in which case my knight really will be under attack. I'm looking at that point at trying to drop the knight into f6 and really go for the coup de grace. Pawn takes, trying to set up some mating net. Doesn't quite look sound, though. So, yeah, I think black could hide their king on h8 and likely defend there. So, I probably will just retreat my knight in the event that black castles. Knight back to c3. Maybe knight e3 if I really want to try to avoid losing this pawn. Not sure I would even be bent out of shape if black ended up taking this pawn, though, once they've castled, because that is in front of their king. Okay, so we're both getting low-ish on time. I've got 3.5 minutes to my opponent's 2:39. They do castle. I think a good decision. So now this threat is on. You know, I can maybe think about going here. It's interesting because then knight f6 could actually be a threat. And if pawn takes on d5, I swoop in and take on d7. A little bit of a fancy move. Not sure I'm convinced by it. Like if black plays king h8, for instance. Just looks a little unnecessarily complicated for me. So yeah, I'm leaning towards this. Provides a little protection down the c file. I get the sense there might be something a little more direct here. Again, I could try to avoid losing the g-pawn. Let me think for a second about something like this. That does stop bishop f4. So what about this? Bishop f4, king comes over. Then take. I'm also on the knight in that case. Yeah, I'm going to go for knight c3. So at this point, I am up an exchange plus a pawn. If I'm counting that correctly. Yeah, I have 7 pawns to my opponent's 6. And being up an exchange means being up a rook for a minor piece, a bishop or a knight. Just a little chess terminology if you're unfamiliar with that. So this should be enough material to win, for sure. But we got to fade black's counterplay. We just can never relax. If you guys take away one thing from this video today, take away the part about never relaxing, even in a winning position, because I've seen so many good players in objectively winning positions blow it because they stop looking for their opponent's threats. We always have to be asking yourself, you guys can see, much of my time is spent on, like, what can my opponent do to try to sabotage me and get back in this game? Okay, c4. Kind of a closing type move. It's an interesting one. Maybe trying to target this eventually. I could go ahead with the pawn storm. Looks a little slow, though. I think I'd rather try to punch through the center. Maybe knight e4, maneuvering again. That definitely looks pretty appealing. D5, too. Yeah, D5 might be even just a really good move here. D5, queen b7, though. Queen b7 is a pin, introduces rook b8 as a threat. Yeah, I think I'm going to go knight e4. I like this one. Hits the bishop. It allows a little more maneuverability for my queen. I feel like it'll help me defend b2 if I ever need to. You know, say black tries to arrange something like this. I can more easily defend against that with something like c3, rook e2 if I really had to. Here, I'm not worried about the queen coming here to pin me because there's this knight f6 idea. Whereas I think if I had played d5, queen b7, that was perhaps more of an issue. With the rook coming over in the pin. I'm still kind of looking at the knight f6 move, just from a different square here as opposed to d5. Okay, check. Let's not waste any time here. So black's queen has to stay in touch with the bishop, which is a little annoying because black wants to move the queen so they can get the rook over to b8 and and double up here. Okay, so they quickly pull the bishop back. Yeah, now I feel like I have more of a license to play a move like rook g1, shift the focus, try to get this knight f6 move in. Yeah, there's also d5. I keep looking at d5, but I'm going to play rook g1 first. I do like the look of this. I don't think black has a threat at the moment, so I seem to have the time to play this way. Okay, knight b6. Probably looking for this. But again, knight f6 is starting to look close to checkmate. Very close to checkmate here. Knight f6, pawn takes back check, king h8. I could play rook g7 there, or queen g4. Queen g4, rook g8, though. Not so clear. Not so clear. Yeah, knight b6 might be a good try, and I don't have a whole ton of time here, so let's make sure we find a decent move. Maybe knight c5. That's like kind of a different direction entirely. Yeah, I feel like I'm really close to a mate, but I'm not quite seeing it. Maybe queen here? Queen coming in is perhaps the way. Knight a4, b3. Yeah, I don't see it, so I'm going to go knight c5. I don't want to get so low here that I can't produce a good decision. So I'm kind of hedging a little bit here. I'm dismissing the whole knight f6 idea. I'm threatening knight takes pawn. I'm stopping knight a4. Cut down on the risk a little bit. First and foremost, we have to try to win the game. So I think that was probably the best decision, at least that I saw, to try to do that. So we'll see how black responds. This is kind of an annoying threat. And again, knight d5, pretty natural move, is going to run into the fork. So, okay, queen there. Now, I could just really de-risk here and play queen b7. I think I might do that. It's a bit craven, but under the circumstances, I mean, we both have 30 seconds left. I'm up an exchange plus pawn. I know my material edge is enough to win this game, so I think I'm going to go for it. I did just go for it. There's no I think about it. Okay, we get the trade. Probably rook b8 will be coming, but then I'll drop the knight back to c5. Okay, plays knight d5. Solid. Solid. Let's go here. Attack this pawn. So the most annoying piece for black is this knight, for sure. Like, I would like to get rid of that knight. Rook b8. I think I can probably take here. Because knight c3, king a1. And yeah, I seem to be doing just fine there. So I think I'm going to go for this. Maybe we'll get into an endgame here. Yeah, so I could allow knight c3, and then try to play that endgame. But I'll go king over. We'll stop knight c3. This was interesting, though. Okay, now let's go here. Pivot the knight back. Still got to watch some tactical ideas. My opponent going for some ideas around my king. I like it. Got to try it, right? But I think we got things on lockdown here for the moment. Okay, this pawn's now hanging, right? So I should be able to take here. Let's do it. Rook c8, I'll play rook g3 to defend. Okay, let's play a4. Okay. Yeah, maybe it's time for this d5 move. d5 bishop e5 though. Let's go here. Just tidy up this g pawn, just so in case my rook ever wants to leave, I don't have to worry about bishop f4 like pressuring this. Yeah. Play this up. Start pushing forward. Roll the pawns. Centralize the rook. Just trying to be meticulous here. Haven't decided if I want to go c5 or d5 in the near future, so just keeping my options open. Might even bring up the king, too. I kind of like that as well. Just a helpful move. This knight on b5 helps control d4. Let's bring up the king. My opponent has a knight, though, and as you guys are well aware, if you have a knight in a position, you always have a chance. So, in the interest of never relaxing, we're still being vigilant here. Rook e2 just help defend this. It's still a little bit tricky to advance just because black is in a decent blockading position right now. Okay, but now we got a back rank checkmate. All right. Just telling him thanks for the game. Also telling him I'll be posting my analysis of this game tonight. Yeah. Yeah, interesting one. I think my opponent put up good defense in the end. The position was pretty tough, though, after losing the exchange. Like, I think that was just a straight-up blunder. Rook b8. Oh, good. Yeah. Lama said that they'll wait up for the analysis, so there you go. Love it. Yeah, interesting position. I am curious what the computer's going to say right around here. I was playing in aggressive fashion, grabbing space, taking some liberties, perhaps with my king safety. I can understand the desire to want to play down the b file, but yeah, those long diagonal moves are so often an issue. And I know many of you have this issue of blundering a move like rook b8 and forgetting. I don't even think it's like a fact that the case that my opponent doesn't know that the bishop has influence there. It's like they forget that the bishop is guarding that square for this particular move. There's a general awareness, like they're not, rushing out and playing queen c7, but for some reason, oftentimes these moves to the back rank with like a bishop sitting in the sniper's nest here, from h2, I would say they're even more likely to blunder rook b8 just because of the distance between those squares. But yeah, after this, again, I thought black should go bishop e7 here, but I give my opponent a lot of credit. Like, they made this interesting. Like, I definitely had to focus down the stretch here, and I probably made some questionable decisions in my conversion. I mean, maybe about the best position black had was something like this. Like, I was wondering if some pressure here or here would pan out, but didn't really see anything. I don't think knight takes a2 works, but maybe in a perfect world, black could do something like this. And let's just say I don't know, I do something like this, and black gets one more move. Bishop b2 followed by rook a1. There are mating nets here. Again, doesn't quite seem to work. I can take that pawn, but there are mating nets. There are some threats swirling around, and my opponent has a knight. Always tricky. So, yeah, I'll be curious about the opening phase and also the middle game phase. I have a feeling c5 is probably a mistake, but let's see what the computer says. We'll run a game review here. Oh, and thanks, everyone, if you're tuning in for the analysis portion. I know it's tempting to kind of just check out after the game's played. I wouldn't blame you one bit for doing that. But remember, chess games are like icebergs. 90% of the stuff is below the surface. And sometimes people wonder, like, well, why do you care about things that didn't happen in the game? Well, like, that's really the entire actual game of chess. The variations you were calculating, the things that the respective sides were looking at, and that went into the decisions that actually occurred in the game. And the whole meta game. And if you're a good chess player, you are very interested in what didn't happen. Okay, so yeah, I got an 88.6. My opponent got a 76.9. Never sure how much to read into those numbers. I think a lot of things can factor them. I think they are a decent barometer of how well you played in a game. Kind of like the Lichess average centi-pawn loss. Okay, so yeah, this is the two knights variation, bishop g4. A lot of times black plays the capture on e4 as well. That's definitely a legit idea. Takes and then knight f6. It's known that bishop f5 by contrast, is not the best idea because after knight g3, bishop g6, h4, h6, knight e5, black has issues, especially on f7. This is almost like the main line, but white has not wasted time playing d4. So they have an even more promising position than normal. So bishop here. And yeah, I think in this position, you can go queen h5. Yeah, queen h5. And there's this cute little idea. If g6, not only can you play queen f3 come back, but a lot of people play bishop c4 and threaten bishop takes f7 mate. You don't want any part of this for black. So it's possible to take on e4, but you don't want to go bishop f5 at that point. You want to prefer knight f6, and there's some theory here. White can take, or they can play queen e2 is popular. So all that aside, bishop g4, definitely a legit move. Just developing the bishop outside the chain. Let's go into our little opening tree here. So looking at the database, maybe I should shrink my webcam for this for a second. Yeah, so we can see h3, which is what I played. That is the top move. Okay, so h3, bishop takes f3. Wait, did I take on d5? I think I took on d5 here. Yeah, okay, so I clearly have to review this line because e takes d5, although it's been played before, not looking good stats-wise. Yeah, I kind of had that feeling that I was mixing up my move order once we got a few moves into this. So h3 first, and I think the line goes bishop h5, then take on d5. Yeah, this is what I was attempting to get. Bishop b5, knight c6, and then g4, followed by knight e5. There's theory here too. I think black is okay in this line as well, but white attacks c6 a couple times, puts pressure on the bishop. There's some pitfalls. So those of you who are Caro-Kann experts probably had a little inkling about this, but yeah, I think this move order probably not quite as good because I have a feeling the way that my opponent played it in the game deals with a lot of the issues. Okay, so yeah, we're following the game here. I did play h3. Knight e5 is kind of a cute move. I got to say, I did not consider that move whatsoever. That has been played before. Look at this. In this two knights Mindeno variation. Sacrificing the queen. Does the computer buy it? Bishop takes d1 is a great move. And the eval is favorable for black. So apparently not. Yeah, this looks very similar to other types of queen sacrifices I've seen before. In fact, I even have an OTB Blitz video from the Twin Ports Open in 2019 where I made a similar sacrifice. But it seems like the circumstances here are not the best for white. Despite the fact that white can do this and go after the rook in the corner if they want. Oh, wait. Yeah, don't step there. That knight takes d5 would be killer. Yeah, tricky position, but it looks like this is probably unsound. So, okay. Knight c6 and then h3. Yeah, so I go ahead and challenge the bishop, and I think ChaoticLama made absolutely the right decision here, playing bishop takes f3. I like that a lot. Just not giving me a chance to transpose to that other variation, because now we would be back in that other line. Yeah, so bishop takes f3. I take knight f6 and g4. Okay, I'm getting the dubious marks. The engine does not approve. It's saying, you know what, John? Even though people are pushing a lot of flank pawns, this is not a circumstance, buddy, where you probably want to do it. So it's saying just go ahead and play e6 here from the black side. d4. Yeah, bishop e7, queen b6. Just castling. Let's just say we toss out a few moves here, something like this. Bishop e3 already. I think I have some issues with both these pawns. Maybe I take or something and play h4. This looks like the game, except a better version of it. Black's a little more coordinated here. They've already played bishop e7. Yeah, I can see how black's better. It says just castle, or black wants to play rook b8. Now would be a good moment to do it because I have not put my bishop on f4 yet. Okay. Yeah, I would not repeat this line from the white side. Again, the whole e takes d5 thing by myself was just a suboptimal move order, it seems. Okay, so my opponent challenges the bishop. That seemed all right. Maybe unnecessary, arguably, but totally fine. Yeah, d4 is fine. And here I played bishop f4. Oh, no, I played g5 first. I was hemming and hawing here about should I play g5 or not? Should the bishop come to d2 or f4? Okay, g5 seems to get the okay. from the analysis. Knight d7. Yeah, and originally I thought bishop d2 perhaps because I was a little worried about this, but I wasn't sure how to respond to this move, hitting both these pawns. Also, in hindsight, it doesn't do anything to disrupt the rook b8 move. So I don't think the bishop's so well placed there. So I stand by bishop f4. It seems fine. Yeah, and I think this next move is probably going to be where things start to go wrong for black. Let's see. So it's suggesting rook c8, maybe preparation for c5, or bishop e7, sensible. Bishop e7, h4, castles. The computer has no fear of this possible pawn storm. Yeah, if I castle this way, I think it's just saying, you know what? Probably black has better chances here especially if we get into an opposite side castling attacking situation. And I can see that because, if I go full steam ahead with h5, like I'm not sure how good g6 is. Because if ever there's a trade here and this rook gets unleashed here, let's just say, for example, I really go for it immediately. Let's say black doesn't even take here. Just like a preparatory move like this. I could see this backfiring hard. Take, pawn take, and then rook takes f4. Just an example of a tactical idea I have to watch out for. Whoa, gets two exclamation points there. Yeah, take bishop g5, walking into the skewer, and bye-bye John. This would be game over. So yeah, I feel like the way I played in this game is more reminiscent of how I might play like in a bullet game. I'm really critical of my handling of this, even though I was taking the game seriously. Like this is just too speculative what I was doing. So yeah, that being said, like it is intimidating when someone is pushing these pawns and you're facing. Let's be honest. Like I'm just a much higher rated player than ChaoticLama, so all these thoughts are running through their head. It's hard to stay focused and not make a nervy decision. So c5 is actually okay. It does swing the edge to white, but it does say c5 is good. I don't know, though. I think in view of the tactics that come here, I would not have played that move. That feels loosening to me on the d5 square. So I do castle here. Yeah, okay. And now I think we're getting into territory where black has to be accurate because, of course, rook b8 was played. But I thought even on, let's say the capture here, black would really be suffering after knight takes d5. And that does seem to be the case. Idea e takes d5, rook comes over with check, bishop e7, and then this bishop d6 move, which just a killer pin. Even if black castles, we not only regain the bishop, but we fork them here too. We're going to pick up the rook as well. Black's position collapses. So I was pretty hyped on these ideas. Still, seems like black can defend though. Knight b6. I think I mentioned that move, helping to control d5. Bishop e7 also given. Just trying to castle ASAP. Apparently runs into this, and maybe there's still some ideas of knight takes d5. I don't know. I'd really have to think about that here. This still does seem like a better option. But suffice it to say, rook b8 is not the move. I'm going to guess ChaoticLama just simply missed bishop takes b8. ChaoticLama, if you're watching this, feel free to tell us your thoughts in the chat. Would love to hear them. But I think safe bet that rook b8 was just a pure blunder, missing bishop takes b8. So let's see from here if black ever had meaningful chances to get back in the game, because it kind of felt like there might have been something later. Yeah, I play rook he1. The computer does say this is okay. Interesting. So how does this go? I kind of stopped calculating here in view of queen d6, but I bet there's going to be some sort of unleashing of further attackers here. It kind of just says takes, and I guess the fact that black's king is in the center is pretty bad for them. Okay, I'll buy that. Maybe rook d3 as well. I saw that move popping up, looking for the rook swinging over. Yeah, maybe that's also a possibility. Sorry, just going to make my webcam a little bit bigger. Okay, yeah, knight takes d5. I can see how that is a move the engine wants me to play. Keep the initiative going. I was pretty happy with rook he1, though. It seems sensible. It threatens knight takes d5. Okay, and bishop d6. I thought bishop e7 would be played. But bishop e7, although it stops knight takes d5 for now, It does have the downside. Let's say if I go h4, that castles runs into knight takes d5. So even though bishop d6 does allow knight takes d5, at least black can castle then. So I do take with the knight. Queen takes was another option, but I take with the knight. Castles. Really wanted to try to make knight f6 work here, but I couldn't quite see it. Yeah, the engine doesn't believe it. Take. I thought king h8 at this point. Looks like bishop f4 and knight takes f6 is also good. So, all right. I go back to c3 here. And then c4. Interesting strategy. Yeah, I can see how knight e4 is an inaccuracy here. The engine's not super happy about that one. Probably in hindsight, I would play d5. We're both getting a little low on time at this point. That does look more direct. Because that d5 square that this knight eventually came to, pretty annoying for me to get it out of there. So I might just be best off keeping the knight there and trying to block that square with a pawn and open stuff up. Wasn't quite sure if I wanted to allow this or what the ramifications of this were. But yeah, this does look better. I can still play knight e4 if I want. So knight e4, black gives the check. And then the bishop comes back. Yeah, knight b6 also an option here. Rook g1. Okay, this is still a decisive evaluation for white for sure. But knight b6, I had to start making some tough decisions here because I really wanted, again, to make this work. Ooh, there is actually a mate if this happens. So the computer says this is winning. I wasn't quite sure, but the computer is definitely convinced. Because I'm threatening rook takes h7 here. I see. I was only thinking queen h5 and then take, or queen e4 and try to take. But that's important. So, like, if black plays knight a4, threatening mate in 1, I actually don't have to burn a move playing b3 or something, which also appears to be winning. But I can just go ahead and do this immediately. And then here, check, king here, and probably rook g1 at this point. No, queen g5. Oh, yeah, mate in 2. Whoops. Not queen f5. Yeah, queen g7 mate. Yeah. So that's actually surprisingly simple now that I see this pattern. It's always simple after the fact, right? And if black doesn't take, let's say they go here, well, we can pretty much force things, right? Queen g4, and then it's the same thing. So that's a line I probably would have seen if I had, let's say, like 5 minutes to think in this position. But a minute 45, trying not to blow this winning position, I erred on the side of caution and played knight c5. And I think I kind of admitted I was hedging a little bit with that, hedging my bets. Takes away the knight a4 move. But also interesting on knight f6, black might go here. And that's another line I would have had to calculate. So maybe I could try to threaten mate in this instance. But here, g takes f6. It's not quite the same, right? So I don't know. Even with 5 minutes, I'm not sure I would have played knight f6. So I go here. And I do like this move. I think under the circumstances, that was the right call. Looking for queen b7 or knight takes a6. So we saw black defend. And call this move cowardly if you want. But if I'm up material and I'm just trying to convert the position, and especially if there's any possible danger to my king, I want to get a queen trade in. And I would recommend you guys do it too, because a queen trade almost immediately increases the margin of safety for both sides in a position. So to me, that almost looks like a no-brainer decision. Certainly between h4 and queen b7, I would much rather play queen b7 in this position. Even knowing the eval, I think I would prefer it because h4 looks like a slower, more long-winded attack. And I know black's going to be beginning to maneuver some resources over here and attack my king. So let's just cut down on the risk. So we do trade queens here. Yep, knight d5. I back the knight out, threatening a6. Black goes here. I saw no reason not to take. It allows knight c3 check, but after king a1, if knight takes d1, I take here. Black can temporarily get 2 minor pieces for the rook, but I'm scooping the knight immediately. I did also see black could take here, but I think it's just too much material at this point, even if I play something like this, let's say. Up an exchange in multiple pawns. So knight takes a6, rook b7. But even for me, like having played tens of thousands of games, when I see the time starting to get low and it's flashing red and the position's tactical, my heart can start going a little bit. And I'm being hyper vigilant here, just trying my best to avoid blunders. King A1, stepping out of knight C3. Yeah, I was trying to avoid playing pawn C3 because that would allow knight takes. This is one of the tactics in the position I got to avoid. So as natural as C3 looks, it's not a good move. I played knight C5, hitting the rook. Yeah, knight back to E4, just a little more support of this square. I'm not going to claim these were the best moves by any means. But now I figured with the knight on E4, I could play C3 in the future if I wanted, because I have that extra defender. So black tried to shove this. Again, not going to take. After knight takes C3, I absolutely can't take because it's the same mating pattern. So I played B3. And knight B4, king B1. And you guys saw the rest of the game. Scoop the pawn. I don't think there's a whole lot else to say here. Just making sure we're being extra cautious, not blundering a knight fork. Okay to play these small improving moves. Like, don't ever feel guilty about doing that in a winning position. It's all about winning the game and allowing as little counterplay as possible in the process, right? Like, especially if time is an issue. Just play solid. You get the same number of points. You get 1 point for a win. Not rating, but in the score table. Whether the game lasts 15 moves or whether it lasts 60. So don't ever begrudge yourself just trying to err on the side of safety to get the job done and win a winning position, because that's how the pros do it. They take their time and they don't leave things to chance. Yeah, and here D5. Funnily enough, I probably am actually threatening to take. I was about to say I'm not threatening to take because of the rook hanging, but let's just say black plays some random move here. I probably can actually do this because I have E7 coming. And that pawn is going to get a touchdown here. But there's also ideas like D6 and then C5 and eventually try to play through here. So the game ended kind of abruptly, back rank checkmate, but it does look like this was winning for white in the second half of this game. Okay, really interesting one. So ChaoticLama, I think, played well in the opening. I think they outplayed me. I played a speculative line, and ChaoticLama just played pretty solid, despite their username, Chaotic. They played pretty solid. I was kind of critical of C5. It seems like the position's still reasonable after that, but with all the tactical ideas involving knight takes D5 that black has to watch out for, I think I probably would have tried to deviate. Maybe here, like, I'm not sure I would have gone A6 first. I think E6 is a more necessary and productive move. That's kind of a nitpick. But I would definitely be having my guard up around here and probably erring on the side of development. Like, knowing myself, if I flip this around, I do think I would have played bishop E7, but you have to be comfortable castling that way, even if the pawn is screaming down the board. But you have to kind of trust that you're going to have enough counterplay that it's going to be fine for you. So, yeah, C5 I felt like was kind of a turning point. And then again, the blunder. But even without the blunder, it's looking a little tricky for black. Okay, so thanks again to my opponent. Awesome to just find a viewer out in the wild here on chess.com. This was climbing the rating ladder. If you're below this rating level, the high 1400s, low 1500s, hopefully you picked up a thing or two, even if you're at this rating level. Hopefully this was useful to you. And if you're higher, same thing. As you saw from my play, I'm taking nothing for granted in these games. And these players are good. You have to outplay these players in all phases. They will still make tactical mistakes, but you're going to see moves like rook b8 less and less often. I don't think ChaoticLama normally makes moves like that. And otherwise, they played, I thought, fairly solid and gave me some trouble even at the end. All right, thanks again, everyone, for watching, and I'll be back again soon with another video. Bye, guys.